So right guys, welcome back to another video. On this one, just going to do a quick review on the PowerPod power meter for your bike. Mounts on the handlebars. If you haven't seen one before, I'll open the box up and I'll show you. Right, there's the box itself. As you can see, PowerPod and cycle mounted, handlebar mounted cycle power meter. There. I'll just go ahead, we'll open it up, see what you get. There's the actual unit itself. Obviously, it's probably your instructions. No, it's not, just open that up. So there it is. So obviously your handlebar mount, it's like a Gopro style mount. Allen key obviously to connect it up. The unit itself there. That's how it looks. You've got your mount, GoPro style mount for the handlebars. Your Allen key and your screws thread there, just like a GoPro to mount it on. Just take the foam bit out. There's your lead. There's your USB lead. Just hook it up to for charging. So obviously you have to charge the unit. In the back there's a port for charging. So when it gets low, just charge it up. And your instructions. So I'll go ahead and get the unit screwed on the handlebars, and then we'll see what it looks like from there. Right, so here's the PowerPod mounted on the handlebars. If you notice, the bracket I'm using is not the one that's supplied with the PowerPod. In my case, the way the cables are on this bike, if it was mounted directly under the handlebar, which it comes with the mount for, it would mount directly here. These cables are always in the way. Doesn't matter if you put it on this side or this side, there's always something in the way. Or to move them out the way, you've got to force them out the way, and then mount the PowerPod there, and the cables are just sort of forced into it, you know. So you're better off getting that's just a separate style mount. I have actually got a GoPro and Garmin mount, so obviously out front mount, so it'll come out there, and then have your Garmin on it, and the PowerPod will mount underneath it on a GoPro style mount and on the bottom. So I recommend, if you're going to get one, the PowerPod, then I would recommend definitely getting another mount just in case, because you'll find that mount with these cables are different if you're running Di2 or something like that, where you haven't got the cables so much in the way. But when you've got all these cables, you know, for a cable setup for brakes and gears, then you find these do tend to get in the way. You might be lucky, you might be able to mount it, but personally it'd be better off having your GoPro out the front anyway, with the Garmin on top, and you can just swap over and put the PowerPod on it, and it's also a GoPro mount, so it comes in handy for both things. And I've already got the mounts that come out the front anyway on other bikes, but obviously they haven't got the GoPro style mount on the bottom, so I can't use them for this. So I'll definitely recommend just getting the Garmin one with the out front mount and the GoPro mount underneath that will take the PowerPod. So that's the setup anyway. As it is, you can see the button on top is just where you switch it on. So once it's calibrated to your sensors, obviously basically you mount it on the bike like so, then liven up your sensors on your bike by obviously pedalling, just in your, you know, on a stand, one work stand or whatever you got, or just pedal them to get the sensors livened up. So it works off of your speed sensor, obviously, in your cadence sensor, Garmin sensors. And then you obviously go about calibrating this. That once this has found the sensors, so you hold the button down for like 4 seconds and light flashes, and then it finds the sensors on the bike. And once you've done that, you just go into your Garmin and then find the power. When the PowerPod's on, you just find it in your Garmin, the sensor, and then obviously save it in there. Once it's found, you can it's set up, and then you just go out when just liven the sensors up, and then go out on a road. And I recommend going out on a straight road, or as straight as you can, without too many junctions or anything in it. Just a decent ride in one go sort of thing, without stopping at traffic lights too much or anything like that, and too many junctions. If you can just keep a steady ride going. It took roughly to calibrate it. Obviously it's just displaying the watts on the screen. It just starts off at 1 watt, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. It just counts up to like 100 watts, and that's to count up to when it's calibrated. So as soon as it hits 100 watts, then it will start displaying your actual power. So it takes from 1 to 100 to calibrate it. So it took about roughly, I would say about a mile and about a mile and a half, and it was calibrated on the, and that was a steady ride, only with 1 junction in it. So yeah, so that was, once it was calibrated, then it was working straight away. Then all you do is, once it's calibrated, you finish your ride, it just switches itself off after, when it's been inactive for about, I think it's about 20 minutes, it will switch itself off anyway. So once it's switched off, and all you do is, when you want to ride again, is just liven up your speed and cadence sensor quickly, just pedal round. Once they're livened up, you can just switch the unit on the top of the PowerPod, and then that means it's switched on. It doesn't switch itself on, you have to just switch it on yourself. So once it's switched on, then it will start displaying, once it's found on your Garmin, it will start displaying the watts on the screen. So yeah, all in all, easy to set up, just follow instructions, simple instructions. So very easy to set the thing up. Right, so I'll just run through some of what I think are the pros and cons of having the PowerPod set up on the handlebars. I can see that obviously you have to charge the unit roughly every 20 hours, so therefore you either need the standard lead that comes with it. In my opinion, is not long enough if you want to leave the unit on the bike, on the handlebars, and charge it. So you have to find a longer lead than the one that's supplied with it, the USB type lead. If you want to charge it near a power socket to get the bike close enough and be able to plug it in. So I would definitely recommend probably a longer lead. And the bracket, as you've seen, I've got it mounted on a different bracket, so the bracket that comes with it probably not suitable for all bikes, because as you find out, your cables are in the way, and the cables are hard to move out of the way without them hitting the, resting against the unit. So that's another thing. And obviously with something like a crank-based power meter, or pedals, the batteries, they're in them until the batteries run out. Then you don't have to charge them, you don't have to plug those in to charge them up. So you just leave them alone until the batteries run out and put a new battery in it. So that's another advantage of those, you don't have to touch them. But the thing is, we're swapping those over all the time. If you own a lot of bikes and you've got a lot of different cranksets, you have to obviously buy the appropriate crank arm for the appropriate crankset you've got. So with like stages or 4i or things like that, it's not so bad with the pedals, but obviously then if you want to use another bike, you've got to keep swapping over the pedals. Say if one day it's, if you ride all year like I do, then one day it might be dry weather and you want to take out your bike, say with no mud guards on it, for instance, your summer type bike, and then if you've got wet conditions, you need mud guards on, say if it's been raining a lot, then you'd have to keep swapping your pedals over all the time. So you know, and the weather changes, you know, from literally hour to hour. So you never know what's going to be the next day. So you don't know. You'd have to keep swapping pedals over. So that would become quite annoying. That's the one advantage of having it mounted on your handlebars. You just literally undo your Allen key on there, and you can pop it onto another bike as long as you've paired it, obviously, with the sensors on that particular bike. Obviously, the speed sensor, you have to pair it or swap over your sensors onto another bike. But obviously, if you've got a lot of sensors on each bike, then you have to pair it with those, and then it'll work as soon as you liven up the sensors and then switch the power meter on. Then it's away you go. And that's the thing with it, you have to switch it on. Whereas something like a stage is, you know, as soon as you start pedaling, obviously it activates, you know, itself. With a PowerPod, you have to physically turn it on. So before, you know, once you've livened up the sensors on the bike, then you can switch your PowerPod on, and then it will recognise it on your Garmin or whatever head unit you're using. So that's another thing that I've sort of noticed. But obviously I've ridden with it now, and I've had no problems with it. It does what it does. It displays the power perfectly well. It works as it should. I've used it in sort of drizzly conditions, not full on rain or anything, but obviously they've obviously tested it so for the rain, so I'm sure it works perfect in the, you know, in the wet weather. So yeah, that's all I could think of really. It's a good unit, it does the job, it works. For the money, you can't go wrong. And it just saves, if you've got a lot of bikes, it just saves, you can swap that over, and it saves buying all your crank arm based power meters. Otherwise you'd end up buying, if in my case I'd end up buying a load more to use on all the other bikes I've got, whereas I can just have the one stages, and then I can just stick with the PowerPod, and I can change that between bikes, quite easily. So yeah, so that's a quick review of the PowerPod power meter, handlebar based power meter. So until the next video, I'll see you then.